Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of What the Hell Am I Doing Here and Why? No, just kidding. So, where are we today? I and my lovely girlfriend are at the tail end of COVID. Symptoms started, for me anyway, on last maybe Wednesday night. And it is now Tuesday, the next week after. And you know something? I'm starting to begin to feel like a normal person again. This has not been a fun trip. This has been... Oh, and it gets better. So my girlfriend has a pet sitting business in addition to her day-to-day job. She works with special needs children. So she has a really rough job normally. Getting punched and kicked by, we're talking very, very special needs children and autistic children, etc. And but she also does a little pet sitting gig, which interestingly enough pays her more than working with children. Kind of emphasizes where people's priorities are, I guess. Anyway, I'll pay you more to watch my dog than I will to have you take care of my kid. Anyway, so she was just a couple days ago, 2 days ago, or no, was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. Time flies, you know. Anyway, she tripped over the dog she was watching and broke her ankle. So let's unpack this radio. Let's see how they did. This is packed. Okay, so you read the assignment, but I don't know if you quite understood the goal here. Oh boy. I don't think you got the point. But all right, let's just have at it. Okay, well, it doesn't look like it got damaged in shipment. Tape is stuck in, as is expected. Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't have packed it that way. But at least you understood the assignment. But I think your interpretation of what the goal in mind is, that's all right. Let me put the gentleman's last name on there. It was Mr. Connor. Okay. So I just shipped off. What I've been doing is I've been trying to film these radios, and if anything interesting pops up, I'll make it a point to put it on YouTube. And let's see. Let's dig in and see what's wrong with it. This guy, I think he wants lighting repaired. We're going to polish up the screens. Now, what I do with these radios, once I determine it's a good, fixable core, if you will, that means no stupid damage. Just normal, bulbs are out. Maybe it needs belts. The cassette deck doesn't work. The CD player doesn't work. As long as the tuner works and the amplifier works, we have something. We can work with it. We can deal with it. Otherwise, I've got to go parts shopping. And I don't like to go parts shopping because I just don't. Because it gets expensive and. So, first things first, I want to point this out. On the Panasonics, these inset knobs for the... just tore my nails off. There we go. These actually are on upside down. They go on like this. Like that. Okay. Irrelevant. I just want to point that out. They don't go on the other way around. As far as I know, far as I know, that's not how they go on. And you'll notice that these two knobs are different. One of them has an index notch on it. That is your volume control. And this one is also on incorrectly. It actually goes on like this. There we go. So that indexing notch makes sense. And then the other one, and I'll tell you why this is. The other one, you push it in, it pulls out and pushes in. See, a lot of these old radios from the 90s and back into the 80s, there were multi-function control knobs, and they would actually engage into one of two rotary pots, and one of them would be for balance, for example. The other one would be for tone. Or in this case, we have two separate pots in one control stick. One of them is for the treble, and the other one is for bass. So, all right, let's power it up and see what's going to happen. So this gentleman, I believe, wants Bluetooth as well. Now, this will be a new one for me. I have yet to do Bluetooth on a Panasonic with a functioning CD player because I think he wants everything to work. I have not done this yet. This one's going to take me some time, so I want to get a jump on it. The brackets are installed. Yeah, he did a nice job shipping it, packaging it. I won't give him any any point deductions for any of that. But I don't want to see these come in. You don't want to wrap this in a box and then wrap the box. The point that what we're trying to accomplish is we want the entire radio covered directly in bubble wrap. This way, the radio can't impact anything inside the box that it's contained in, which could cause damage, wear marks. Shipping it in a box like that, like it was, in a separate box, okay, you're going to add wear marks from the jostling during shipping. So you want to wrap the radio. What would have been a better idea is wrapping the entire radio in like a shrink wrap, but not tightly, just loosely wrap it in a film. Okay. Again, I am going to try to edit out some of that. I am still under the influence of coronavirus, so yeah. All right. Let's see what we got. So we have instant. We got power. Let me check for lighting. Now the Panasonics do not have bright illumination anyway. It looks brighter on the phone than it does in person. I assure you that. And it is activated with I have a power switch here. I can shut my lighting off. So if I were to turn the vehicle's lighting off or on, that should not have happened. Oh, you know what? It's trying to initiate the tape deck. Let's see if it'll eject. It won't. I guarantee you it won't. And the reason why is because this cassette deck is seized up. That's okay. I already have the bulbs. I've got the belts, and I think I have enough caps. We can recap this CD player, perhaps. Let's see what we get. Let's try to eject it. Okay. Yeah, it's jammed solid. Turn it on. I have no sound at all. Now, why would that be? Oh no. He didn't tell me it had no sound. That's not good. Nothing. Not even a beep. Nothing. Oh. Oh, that's different. But I only get sound through one speaker. That can also be the back connection here. Where's my my balance? Oh. Ah. I see. Okay. All right. I know what's wrong with you. Typical Panasonic. Broken solder joints. That's what's going on. Yeah. In the rear connect. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm manipulating the center plug, or the CD player aux plug, and it's not doing anything. I think I know what's wrong with it. Alright. This is becoming a recurring theme with the Panasonics, and only the Panasonics. I don't see this in the Pioneers. Unfortunately, lost my Rush Presto CD. That went out with a customer's radio by accident. That was my bad. Oh, no, I do have the Presto CD. Which one did I lose? Oh, I think it was my Grateful Dead one. The one that I've had as a test CD. And it's been damaged. Yeah, that one's lost to the ages. Let's see how the CD player does. Got some minor damage. Got some minor damage to the CD player display. Now, what's interesting is this one lights up thoroughly. The last one on my bench, which was a different model, it didn't have as good lighting on that display. All right, okay. So CD player's out. We know why, because of capacitors. So we'll be recapping that CD player. We're going to rebelt, and we're going to loosen up the cassette deck, and we're going to fix some broken solder joints. So who wants to watch this action? Let's get started. Let me turn my light on. Come on, baby. It's got one of those manual starters. You don't see those anymore. You don't even see fluorescent lights anymore. Okay, we're going to shut the power off. I already know what's wrong with this thing. Been inside enough of these to know what to look for. And now, hopefully, most of you will too. The goal of my channel is not to become the only guy in the world who fixes these. I want to, because, well, there was one guy, and I've mentioned it before, Mr. Anderson. He has passed away, and I'm just trying to fill those shoes as best I can. I'm no electronics whiz. I'm in training, but when I see I can determine there's a problem with something, I'll do my best to fix it. So yeah, the more of these radios you crack open, the more you start to see pattern failures. Pattern failures are great, and here's why. Once you've identified the root cause of a failure or course of corrective action, like for example the CD players in these, they always stop working because of failed capacitors. And you know, 25 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, nobody cared to even try to figure out why they didn't work. They would just rip it out and put in a new one. Well, we're at a point where some of these earlier 90s cars, like the Miata, are becoming very collectible. So, being a collector car, as some of these vehicles are becoming, having as much of the original equipment as possible is actually kind of a benefit. So, you know, for example, a 1990, in this case, it'd be like a 95 Miata. I'm not sure what trim level. But having a functioning CD player and a cassette deck as it shipped from the factory, that does increase the car's desirability. And now that we have taken the time to determine why these fail, it becomes kind of a no-brainer to just try to start saving as many as we can. And so that's what we do here. That's what I do. And it's not a cheap, now what I offer is not a cheap service. This is not a cheap way to get you know, tunes in your car. Believe me, because for what I charge to do this kind of work, you could put in a very nice aftermarket stereo. Or you can source out a, maybe a new old stock, whatever kind of radio that you want from that time period, and it would probably be cheaper. The service that I offer, because of right now, I am currently the only one doing this that I know of. I have to charge accordingly, and I've been getting enough work to sustain this. Actually, the business is starting to pick up. The word is getting out that I'm doing this kind of work, and it's kind of a blessing and a curse because I've been having to dedicate more and more of my time to fixing these old radios, which I'm fine with. I mean, hey, it is, I'm going to be honest though, even with what I'm charging, it's kind of hard to maintain a profit. It really is. And one reason why is shipping costs are ridiculous right now. For example, I just shipped one of these, this exact radio. I had to ship 2 of them back to a customer. One of them was repaired. The other one was a parts unit that we ended up not being able to save. And it cost me $54 to ship it back. That's insane. That is insane. It's just, I can't understand how I'm going to be able to, keep this going if shipping is that expensive. So step 1, we're going to pull the cassette deck out. We don't even need the cassette deck in the radio at all. While we're working on this radio, the cassette deck can just kind of chill off to the side. It doesn't even need to be installed. We can take it out. It makes it a little bit easier when you're diving in repeatedly to find, problems. Next, I'm going to show you why we have audio on one channel, not the other, unless we tap it. That's actually kind of cool. And it's a unique issue to these Panasonics. It really is. But before we get into that, let me tell you about COVID. So, my girlfriend and I both work in a setting where we're in contact with people of all ages in density, like a lot of people all the time, kids, adults, and it's a miracle that we only now finally get COVID. She didn't have it, she hasn't had it yet, and neither have I. And it's just nuts. But we've not had COVID until now. And I'll tell you how I knew I had it. Well, number 1, she came home sick one day, and I'm like, wow, honey, what's going on? And she's like, well, I have all these symptoms. I'm like, well, why don't you take a COVID test? So she took a home COVID test, and it came back negative. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, that's lovely. So then another day goes by, and she ends up going to Convenient MD to get a flu test. Ooh, Phil Collins tape. I actually think I have this tape. Pretty cool. So she goes and gets a flu test, and we'll look at that in a minute. So she calls me up from the clinic and says, honey, I have some bad news. I'm like, oh my God, you're dying. No, I have COVID. I'm like, oh, well, that sucks. But let's get you home and, you just take it easy, do the right thing, blah, 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 blah. So she comes home, and then I'm like, well, that means I probably have it too, because it was around that same time I woke up like that morning with a scratchy throat, and I'm thinking, oh crap, this is bad. Because that's like the first symptom of COVID, is a scratchy throat. Great. So I went ahead and I took the at-home COVID test, and guess what? I got it positive. Without hesitation, my test came back positive. So, yippee-ki-yo-ki-yay. let the good times roll. Within a day of that positive test, I felt like somebody picked me up by my belt, dragged me up to the top floor of a 40-story building and threw me off. I hit the ground and everything hurt. It was the worst I felt in at least 2 years, maybe 3 years. And I don't recommend it to anyone if you can avoid it. It is nasty. Don't get COVID, kids. But anyway, enough about me. Let's look at this board. And I've already found one break. Let's try to mark them off. Okay, let's see. I found one. And maybe one or two suspect. I don't know why, for sure. Yeah, this one looks pretty suspect. We're going to mark that one off. I don't know what it is with these Panasonics and these brakes all over the place. We're going to look at our connectors. And yeah, that one's broken. There's a brake there. Now, this is something that you guys can do, you know, with very, very little to no soldering skills. You can fix these on your own. So if you have one of these radios and it cuts out, this is the first thing I would suggest. Yeah, this one's definitely broken. We'll fix that one up. This is the first thing you should do. This one's broken. Oh yeah, that one's definitely broken. I don't know why. Now, one suspicion I mentioned before. Oh, that doesn't look good. Okay. You're looking for a clear separation between the stem of the component and the board pad. And you're looking for like a ring. Some are more obvious than others. This looks pretty bad too. Not a break, but you gotta kind of examine that board and look for anything. Really though, you should just reflow the entire board if you start seeing a pattern of these breaks. Some of them aren't really breaks. Some of them are just the way the flux kind of burned off or boiled off during the soldering process. But yeah, that just happens to these all the time. I usually see it on the round connector. That's this guy right here. And a break anywhere on this connector or any oxidization. In fact, we should just go ahead and spray some deoxit in there, just to be safe. And while you're looking at this, this is, by the way, the amplifier and power board. This is where all the audio amplification takes place in this board, in addition to the splitting up of the power rails. So you go from a 12-volt power source, there's a switched and an unswitched, which is your battery. That's your battery connector. That keeps the memory alive. All of that power takes place in this block of aluminum, which is what I kind of like about the Panasonic design. It all takes place in this beautifully crafted heatsink, which helps to keep the radio from, boiling over. I'm going to go ahead and touch all of these with my soldering iron. Let's warm that up. And yeah, all the pin connectors, we're going to just kind of graze them with a hot iron and just make sure that nothing's bad there. So yeah, it took me a couple of days. I think by, today is Tuesday, so probably by Saturday, maybe Sunday-ish, I started to feel a little better. But for the most part, I slept for about 4 days. I slept and slept and slept. I hadn't left the house in 4 days. Today, I'm starting to feel a little better, and I'm planning on going back to work maybe on today's Tuesday, so Thursday, I'll probably go back to work. Fortunately, we both have jobs that treat us like human beings, and we have accumulated a lot of sick time, and we have health insurance, so if anything goes awry, we're covered, which is not, you know, you would think that for a country like the US that wouldn't even be a concern, but it absolutely is, because there are so many people that I know that don't have what we have. But that's another discussion for another day and on a different channel perhaps. Anyway, so I'm going to quickly show you guys how to fix these broken solder joints that keep popping up on these Panasonics. Now, all that having been said, I want to point out that the Panasonic is actually one of my favorite radios. I kind of wish I had one in my car, but my car was built with the Pioneer, which I am not getting rid of. I just like the way the Panasonic radio is built. It's a little better built, I think, in theory. It's easier to disassemble, for sure. And it just kind of, I don't know, I like it. Alright, so what I think is really happening here is I think these are lead-free joints. I think that, and I don't know this for sure, but I believe the Panasonic was kind of an early test run of lead-free solder. And as a result of that, yeah, that one was opening up. Yikes. Because of that, you know, they didn't quite have the formula just right, and lead-free solder, at least earlier lead-free solder, had a propensity to crack very easily under stress. And so you would have joints opening up frequently in areas with a lot of mechanical movement. And what more mechanical movement would you have? And let me rephrase that. Car stereos are prone to jostling and bumping, and there you have it. You couple it with a design like this, where the radio has no internal wiring. Every component is interlocked with the adjacent component. So, for example, the Pioneer radios, every board, well, not every board, most of the components within the radio are connected with cabling. And so if one component is jostled, that cabling doesn't transmit that jostling to the nearest part. So you have some mechanical isolation of vibration, for example. On the Panasonics, all of that mechanical movement is transmitted from component to component through the connectors. And it's at those connectors that you find most of the damage. I did say that this connector here, I'm going to at least reflow all of these with a little extra solder. And that's kind of a little insurance policy for us right there. Yeah. And not only that, but yeah, this, by the way, the solder I'm using right now is lead-free. So I'm adding lead-free solder to lead-free solder, not leaded solder to lead-free solder. You can actually do it the other way around if you want to. I don't think it's going to hurt anything. Let's see. Leaded solder is a mixture of 60% tin and 40% lead, I believe. Or it could be the other way around. It's usually 60-40 that we use in electronics. That's kind of been like the standard. Now, this lead-free solder is 6236-2. So that would be, I think it's tin, aluminum, silver. I think it's 2% silver Yeah, silver, aluminum, and tin. I think that's how that works. And let's just double check to make sure we didn't bridge anything. I think we're good. I want to point out that this kind of repair was never part of the original quote, and it normally won't be. I kind of expect these radios to come in this kind of condition. I mean, that's just how things go with these. I'm not going to hit them with a charge for repairs that were not part of the plan. That's not how I do business. Now, if he sends me the radio and, you know, oh my God, I need to replace the amplifier board, well, that's when I have to dig through my parts pile to see if I A, have one, and B, if it works. And then I got to figure out what that's going to cost him. You know, I try to be fair to my customers. And I don't want to hit them with anything unexpected if I don't have to. So we'll plug this all back in. We're going to now verify whether or not this even fixed the problem. To do that, we do need to screw this back together. And then, yeah, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm at the tail end. It's now been roughly 7 days since my initial diagnosis. I'm 6 days in, I think, to COVID. And like I said, I'm starting to feel like I'm just getting over a cold. But at its worst, I couldn't stay awake. I was running a fever of 101. The way I can describe it is, it was like the worst cold I'd ever had. Really, that's how I would describe it to anyone who's asking. Like, what is it like to have COVID? Because some people still haven't gotten it. I was one of them. And believe me, I was at risk 100% of the time. You know, mask or no mask, I was at risk. And just because of the nature of what I do for work. When you work in technology in a large organization, you're around a lot of people and a lot of equipment that it's just the nature of the beast. As of right now, I cannot taste or smell anything. I can feel that sense coming back a little bit. My mom is one of those few people who she got COVID early on in one of its earlier incantations, and it knocked out her sense of taste and smell 2.5 years ago, and she still can't taste or smell anything. So maybe I'll be one of those lucky bastards. Who knows? All right, so I'm going to power this thing up. Why am I not getting anything? What now? What did I forget to do? Okay. Yeah, I'm not getting any lights or anything. I'm not really drawing any amps either. Okay. Alright, let's double check some things. Oh boy, it's going to be one of those days, isn't it? We got all plugged in, right? Make sure all the finger connectors are all finger connected, and we have ground. We've got all this nonsense. Let's take this back apart again. Alright. Make sure I didn't bridge anything. I thought I already checked. But we'll check again. I always look at my amp draw on my power supply to make sure that nothing's shorted out, and it looks like it's not drawing anything. So, alright, let's take this back out. Okay. Let's take a look at the finger connectors on here to make sure none of those are loose. No, I think we're good there. Okay. Yeah, the cassette deck does not need to be installed. just let me grab my got one of these with a brush on it. I wish I knew where it was. I'm just gonna kind of go through and make sure that nothing is bridged. Okay, that one looks pretty standardly straight and good. Yeah. Sometimes just the act of taking these units apart, you can open up a can of worms where stuff that was marginal before is now a problem. So yeah, yeah, it's not a fun game to play. Let me tell you, not a fun game. But as I said earlier, this is not for people looking to save money. This is for people who want the original stereo in their car or something like it, and they don't care what it costs, because it takes a lot of resources to do this kind of stuff. It takes a lot of time, a lot of energy. Well, I have sent out several radios so far, and none have come back for additional work, which is kind of a good thing. I actually lost count of how many I've actually repaired, but it's quite a few. Quite a few. So we may have to pull this whole radio apart and oh, I know what happened. All right, I pulled the faceplate back. All right, I just realized what happened there. The faceplate's not plugged in, so kind of had a bit of a moment of panic there for a second. I'm like, oh no, I broke his radio. Damn you. Alright, I should have multiple of these long screws. I only see one. Or whatever. Let's put that there. I'm going to put this screw back in here. That's actually kind of a grounding screw that needs to be installed. And here's my extra long screw. Don't know. I'll find it later. Okay. Alright. That's what happened. So let's plug that faceplate. There we go. Let's get that reconnected. Okay. Alright. What I like about this particular example, this radio is in really good shape. It doesn't have the typical water damage. Now, again, all of these radios were installed in convertibles, which is a recipe for disaster. It really is. Bad idea. You leave that convertible top down just one time during a rainstorm, and it's all over. I've had a few radios come in that I've just flatly refused to work on because there was so much water damage in them. You know, and it's funny, if a radio, let's say you unplug that radio, you take the radio, you unplug it, okay? Perfectly good one, like this one for example. You unplug it, get it wet all you want. As long as it dries out before you apply power to it, you're actually not going to be in really bad shape. But as soon as you apply power to it, that's when you run into problems. Because it's the fact that you got power flowing where it's not supposed to go. That's what causes the damage. Here we go. All right, you got lighting. The AM tuner, nothing. I should be getting static. Well, I think 1030 is my local BZ station. I have no sound. Okay, we now have sound in both speakers. And it no longer cuts out. We're good. So we fixed that. I'm going to tune it to a music station and I'm going to listen to it for a sec. Okay, we found another set of brake issues. Okay, so we got some brakes on that board too. Possibly even the volume control. They're on the same board. We also had the brakes in the back. Those are fixed. We got more to work on. Alright. If it wasn't for the damn YouTube copyright issues stuff, I could just listen to real music and this would be a much more enjoyable video to produce, but what are you going to do? CD player set aside. That one is going to be refurbished the only way I know how. And we're going to also do some total. We'll take the faceplate off. We're going to get that prepped for lamps. And we're going to go ahead and just kind of go over all the boards for additional brakes, which I know we have. It's just nature of the beast with these stupid Pioneers. Panasonics. Why do I keep getting the names mixed up? I don't know. Anyway. Okay. Just take this apart. But it sounded pretty good. I had some Led Zeppelin going on that one local station that has really good reception at my house, and it sounded all right. But yeah, we have sound cutting out if you manipulate the volume control. I'm sorry, the tone control knob, which tells me that, and I've seen this many times before, there is another brake. I can't catch a brake. All right. I'm going to loosen these up, spin them off. Now, I had a viewer ask me, actually not a viewer, but a potential customer ask me about scratchy volume control knobs. So the problem with that is this is how the volume control knobs are built. So this is actually 1, 2, 3, 4, possibly 5 separate potentiometers stacked, and there is no way for me to, and I could desolder them and crack them open, but it's really not a procedure that I am comfortable doing. On a Panasonic, what I would do is I actually have a couple of extra of these boards, and I would try to just swap it out with a known good one. That would be the course of action that I would prefer to take. And there we go. Sometimes they're a little tricky to get off. Okay. So oh my, yeah, we've got a few brakes here. We've got at least 2 or 3 there. And I'm looking at the pots right here, and we've got no visible brakes there. Yeah, this is but I'm looking at, so you got one right there. Can you guys see what I see? I'm putting the pick to it right there. That's a brake. And get this comb out of there. Yeah, that's a pretty clear brake. You got 1, 2, 3 in a row, tic-tac-toe. So when you flex the control pots, you're actually flexing that that spot on the board. And there is a possibility that we could also have a bad pot. Pot is short for potentiometer, and that's really all these are. We also have some oxidization on the little fingers. You can clean those off, no big deal. And because we know there's an issue, for example, the AM tuner doesn't work at all, it seems. I'm going to go ahead and just going to tear the whole thing apart. But we'll start off by fixing these solder joints here. That would be a good thing to do. I'll put the chassis up. I got parts everywhere right now. It's organized chaos right now in my shop. This is the only radio on my bench right now. The other ones have been sent out as of today. Hopefully we'll be getting some nice happy customer feedback, I hope. I just sent off some labels to a gentleman in Poland for the Pioneer MSSS1s. And I am offering to start selling those again. For those of you who want to DIY your own faceplates. I don't mind selling the labels, but they are not cheap to make, and I've had to raise my prices on those to recuperate some of my investment. They are very expensive to produce. It looks like the cost went up for me. I'm not too crazy about that. Shoot some of that in there. This is basically mineral oil with some solvents. It's not conductive. I had somebody yell at me because I used it on equipment that I quickly plugged back in again. Listen, I mean, it's not going to hurt anything. People use this stuff all the time. It's so mineral oil doesn't conduct electricity. It's the nice thing about mineral oil. But anyway. But yeah, I can't spray that stuff in these potentiometers. Well, maybe I can. Let's give it a try. Maybe some of it will work its way in. You know? I mean, these are pretty well sealed. But I see some gappage in there, maybe. Put that in there. Maybe it'll help out. Maybe. Right. Okay, so that board is, I think we fixed what we needed to fix on this guy, and we'll put that little fingerboard back in there. Let's dive deeper into our chassis. I haven't had one come in yet with a bad AM tuner. That's a new one. Not that anyone's using AM tuners in their Miatas. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it if there were, but I don't think that's a popular option. So, I guess. I mean, there's an ass for every seat, right? Or vice versa. What has me kind of tied up in knots is how this is all worked up. I don't know why that would be. Alright, let's just tear into it. And take a closer look at this chassis. So, what kind of radio would I like? If people would just send me one model of radio, what would it be? It would be the Pioneers. I like working on them. I do. The Pioneers are just, they're kind of like my thing now. You know, they're kind of they're not a rare option, but they're not a popular one. And there's not really a whole lot of them left. But they're fun to work on. I think so, anyway. So what am I doing wrong here? What am I missing? Oh yes, I gotta bend these, and there's a tab there that I gotta bend in. Oh, there we go. The Panasonics are they're predictable, and they do when they fail, man, they fail hard. And it's usually multiple things at the same time. When I get them, it's never one thing. It's never, oh, my CD player doesn't work, or oh, my cassette deck doesn't work. It's my CD player, my cassette deck, and my tuner all don't work. Help me. It's never one thing with these. With the Pioneers, I've had one thing, you know, my cassette deck doesn't work, or my tape deck, or my CD player, or whatever. It's always, with those, it's usually one thing, maybe two. With these, it's the trifecta, it's everything. Yeah. But yet, in the same breath, I do mention that I like how they're built. You know, it's kind of a double negative thing. Yeah. All right, let's try to. So the thing is, with these, I got to desolder these ground wires. You know, there's just a little more to it. Got to unbend or bend these little locking tabs, which are always fun. Straighten them all out, which means that I can only take it apart 1 or 2 times before the tabs start to break off. So yeah, I like the way they're built on one hand, but on the other hand, I wish they wouldn't have done this. And they're just everywhere, you know? Stupid locking tabs. So this board here, this is, I believe this is going to be our preamp. So the preamp circuitry is all within this board here, and this is our tuner board. So when you make your selection between, you know, AM, FM, cassette, most of that logic is taking place here. The redirection. The logic is probably over here. Not really sure. Like I said, and I said this before, I don't have a schematic for the Panasonics. I wish I did. Because then I could actually look at a block diagram of what's what, and then make, you know, then I can say, okay, well, this is where this is happening, this is where that's happening. And that's why this, and this don't work. And this tab is being a bitch. There you go. Come undone, you. But yeah, these are the ones that do give me the most egregious trouble because of their design, which I like, which is kind of weird. I like them and I hate them at the same time. But yeah, I do have the most trouble with these stupid Panasonics. This one does not want to come apart. It's just like not having it, man. And I gotta do the same thing to the other side. Oh yeah, I gotta do that one too. Yeah, they got two soldered on ground straps that need to be addressed. One of these I do actually have. It was completely destroyed in shipment, and it was the subject of one of my videos because I was so distraught. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. This was all preventable if you would just pack it. It was packed like a bologna sandwich. I mean, not literally, but you might as well have thrown it in a Walmart bag and slapped a shipping label on it. It would have had the same result. Yeah. What are you gonna do? I gotta find that guy another radio too. I think when I'm all caught up, I'm gonna reach out. I'm gonna try to build a working radio, and then I'm gonna reach out and see if he wants to pay for the work that I did to the working one. You know, maybe help him out. I do feel bad. And even when a customer makes a mistake like that, I feel for them. I mean, it sucks. You know, it's not like a haha, I told you so moment. It's more of a, man, I feel for you. You learned a lesson. Let's try to move on from that. He was real cool about it too. Really, really an understanding. It's like, you know, you tell someone their radio was destroyed in shipment and there's nothing we can do about it. It sucks. I never take pleasure in those calls because because I don't make any money. You know, when the radio is destroyed in shipment, I make no money on it. And it's just great. Now I have to figure out how to make this person happy. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, this is these little squeezy thingies. They get you every time. Try to get it to a position where it'll unlock. Did I miss one or what's going on? Oh, okay. I gotta take more solder out. That's what's going on here. But yeah, Jeff Anderson was the man who knew these all too well, and he was making modifications to them that I don't seem to have any I don't have any documentation on, and you know, so that kind of sucks. I should reach out to his family, say, hey, I don't know you, you don't know me, but if there's any way that I can purchase some of his, you know, parts inventory, I would be more than interested. If anybody knows how to get in touch with the family, let me know. I might actually do that. And at least maybe I can try to help his legacy on, you know. But, you know, well, giving more back to the community at large. Alright, let's try to... This one is being a real bastard. Why? I don't want to crack the freaking board, but it just will not release. There we go. There we go. Alright, let's see what kind of damage you got. Alright, so this is our kind of our logic board, if you will. This is where all the... See, these are the two processing chips. One of these is probably memory. The other one's for processing and all that happy crap. Let's check for any breaks. And so far, so good. So far, so good. Yep. That checks out. Should be doing this under a magnifier, but I think I get the idea. A lot of really sloppy soldering here. It's almost like this was done by hand. I know it was done by a wave machine, but some of the solder just, this really does reek of, you know, early, oh, look at this. We caused a break. Look at that. I'm going to have to patch that. Yep. We'll be patching that one. Although I don't think it's... No, that looks active. And it goes across to these pins here. It deadheads into nothing. But yeah, we got to fix that now. Oh yeah, I see where it goes. Oh, that's just blue masking. That's all that is. Okay. We'll have to do a point-to-point repair on that. That's all right. I'll do that in a minute. And our tuner board, where I suspect is going to have some problems. Yep. We have some problems there. That's a break. And yeah, see, I see these real quick. Like, they stick out like a sore thumb. We got these right here. Those are clear breaks, and that goes into this transistor here. Now, it brings me to my next point. What causes these, besides physical jostling? Thermal cycling. Thermal cycling will do it. Over the course of 30 years, yeah, that can be a problem. That can absolutely be a problem. Thermal cycling is probably the #1 reason why this happens. In addition to physical jostling, vibration, etc. You know, not a lot of good, vibration isolation. But right here, yeah, we got a problem there. We got to fix that. That one looks kind of suspect. And if I wiggle this a little bit, looking for a slight movement. I don't see anything. Love this one. Okay. All right. I think we have our marching orders. Let's get on it. Maybe we can bring it back to life. I'm still looking. I'm still looking. Alright. We know that there's a problem there, so we'll fix that. The problem with lead-free solder, as I mentioned earlier, is that, yeah, it fails. And I've mentioned this before, I keep saying that, but we talked about it in another video. I don't think Pioneer was using lead-free solder in the early 90s. Lead-free solder, I think it became standard by like 96, I'll be honest. I think that was about when I started seeing, you know, lead-free and all that mentioned. And yeah, I think that might be the around the time when people started taking it seriously. I'm going to look that up. When was RoHS instituted for consumer electronics? RoHS. That was when hazardous substances started being scuttled from consumer electronics and from, you know, industrial and commercial applications. But yet they were still building TVs that were full of mercury, so, you know, take it for what it's worth. I'm going to beef up a couple of solder joints here, and we're going to run a patch. That's how we're going to fix that break. So, to do that, I have a roll of patch wire, jumper wire, I guess you'd call it. And we'll just do that. So this, you'll notice it runs. Don't drop that. Okay, it runs across this this mechanical fastening section. Goes from this point here all the way around to here. It's going to go underneath this blue masking, over, down to this point here. So we're going to route that so that it's not in the way of anything. So you still don't know why the AM receiver doesn't work? I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that if this doesn't fix it. Oh shit. Let me clean this up. I want to make sure that I'm doing this right. Here's my little clip clipper. Now that's not a problem. That issue is new. That was not an issue before. That is something that happened during our time with this radio. That was not here before, not to my knowledge. So you know, gotta watch out for these sorts of things. Sometimes you can be the cause of a new problem. Okay, that's fully attached. Now we're going to carefully kind of route that over, and up. And what I'll do is I'll maybe put a little bit of glue or something down. That's how you repair broken tracks in the board, and it's effective. In fact, you might also find that in some cases you'll open up a brand new, well, maybe not something made in the 2020s, but something made like in the 80s and 90s, a radio, a TV, computer, and you're going to find a lot of this stuff kind of scattered all over the board. Because what they would do is, if they screwed up the design of the board, what they would often do is they'd have rework departments. So they'd have just one entire department reworking boards like this, and they would use this exact. It's not enameled wire. This is coated in I don't even know what, but it's a coated wire, like a plastic coating. And they would just rework boards. They'd cut traces with a drill bit, and they'd have another person running this stuff point to point. That's just how they did it. So there's nothing wrong with using that stuff. Sometimes you'd find it held in place with either Celastic, hot snot, or even wax. I've seen it even held in place with wax, depending on what kind of environment that component was used in. We're going to use hot snot, high temp, and we're going to just kind of tack it in place, and then we're going to verify that we fixed it using a multimeter. I'm going to do that right now. Okay, so as of right now, we fixed one or two problems. We fixed a couple of breaks in the board that we knew existed. We caused a break. We fixed that break. We want to make sure that we have continuity from here to here, and we do, and to here. Yeah, we're good. Problem solved. Now we just need to tack it down so that doesn't get snagged in anything, and then we can move on to fixing other stuff that this machine. Yeah, here's an example. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. Now this may be part of the original design, But you're going to see that in some cases, like they failed to run a trace, and they're not going to pay to have the board redesigned or relaid out. So they just figure out, okay, well, we need to jump here to here to here to here. Go fix it, Johnny. There you go. Here's your paycheck for the day. Thank you for fixing our mistakes. And that's how it works. That could be a ground. No, I don't think it's a ground. No, it's not a ground. All right. But yeah, that's kind of how the game works. Again, we don't know why the AM work. Let's take a look at another. While that's heating up, we're going to look at our AM FM board and try to find something that might be obvious. Yeah, we did fix that broken transistor. The transistor could be bad. It doesn't look too healthy. It looks like it got really hot, actually. But I'm not even sure which of these is the AM board. The AM receiver is one of these, part of one of these. The one thing I don't like about the Panasonics is there's not a lot of documentation on the board. So every component is identified and marked and everything. Not identified, but we know if we had a service manual, we would know what's what. On the Panasonics, they did a little bit nicer. They did us nicer on the Panasonics. They actually labeled every subsection of the board with its purpose, which Panasonic did not do for us. All right, so let's tack this down. Okay, so a little bit goes a long way here. Just kind of tack it down. Cool off. I'm gonna just tack it here. I'm gonna tack it over here. And we're going to just kind of tack it over here. I don't want it getting snarled. And that's how we do it, man. We fixed that problem. Alright. Now we're going to check our work. We're going to put it all back together again. I'm going to put some contact cleaner in all of the finger connections between the two boards. Excuse me. And we're going to see how that goes. Alright. Okay. I'm not going to film that. I'm going to just shut the camera off and we'll put it back together again. But just to show you what I'm doing, we're going to take a little bit of this stuff. Deoxit D5. Which, by the way, in all disclosure, they sent me a bunch of this stuff. Must have been 5 years ago, and I've become an absolute fanboy of Deoxit ever since. The stuff works, and it works well, really well, too well, and it helps to prevent connection issues later on down the road. But you don't have to use a lot of it. It is messy stuff, and but it's not going to hurt anything. The idea, though, I mean, in all seriousness, you should let the solvents kind of evaporate off before you power everything up. But it doesn't take more than a couple seconds, really. So I use this stuff. It works great. Really good. Okay. Oh, another thing is these actually come out if you pull up on them. So you can actually reseat them. You pull them out like that. Okay, and then you take your Deoxit and you spray it into the finger slots. You push them right back in. So if you've got, a little oxidization in these connectors, look at how much easier they are to push back in. If you've got a weak connection there, you know, that'll probably solve it for you. All right, little word of the wise. And now that we've manipulated those, we're going to just once again double check to make sure we don't have a cracked connector. I think we're good. All right, there we go. So let me put this back together. We'll come back to it. All right, here we go. Power on. Nothing. AM is not working. It's a first. That's a first. Okay. 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 So, looks like we have repaired the problem with the dropping out of audio from one channel or more. These are working just fine. But we still have no audio on AM, and that's interesting. I should be getting some kind of static or something. Nothing at all. Well, nothing. Now, I know it's not because it's muting it automatically, because we do have a pretty strong AM base in this area. Like, there's a lot of AM stations in my area that sound fine. But that is a casualty. And you know what? I don't think the customer is going to want to pay me to fix that. So, we fixed all the brakes, and it sounds pretty good. I'm going to switch it back to FM and confirm that.
For 60 months at 2.5% APR plus tax title. Money back within 7 days.
What did I just do?
I hate the struggle of tough, greasy messes on my stovetop. So I just freak, wipe, and I'm done.
When I'm frustrated with stubborn bathtub soap scum,
There's
I just freak, wipe, and
there's
I'm done.
something in the display
Delivers an innovative cleaning.
that okay, that's a little marginal. When you get the display apart, when you get the faceplate apart, we've got some work to do.
Stuff They Don't Want You to Know podcast delves into popular
one of my favorite
culture's most
podcasts.
persistent mysteries.
That's funny.
Now, there's something else that the guys at Stuff They Don't Want You to Know want you to know. They've got a new book coming out.
Okay, I listen to that very podcast when I'm working on these radios and not filming. Just FYI. Great podcast. Stuff They Don't Want You to Know.
Love hearing on the podcast.
Anyway, little side subject there. All right, so I think at this point I'm going to take a break, and I'm going to inform the customer that his radio is on my bench, and we've solved a few small issues. We already know what's wrong with that. We'll fix that later. And the CD player, we'll have to do a recap on that. So I'll let him know, and catch you guys later.